US President Donald Trump said Ukraine and Russia will have to concede territory to each other to end the war. He was speaking ahead of Friday's bilateral meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska. President Trump said it's not up to him to make a deal, but the talks would help gauge the likelihood of an agreement between Russia and Ukraine.
Well, we're going to have a meeting with Vladimir Putin, and at the end of that meeting, probably in the first 2 minutes, I'll know exactly whether or not a deal can be made.
How will you know that?
Because that's what I do. I make deals.
Well, ahead of Friday's meeting, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has invited the US President to a virtual summit with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, as well as European and NATO leaders. Ukraine and its European allies are concerned that Presidents Putin and Trump will use their meeting to decide territorial concessions without Kyiv's participation. President Zelenskyy has repeatedly rejected any peace plan that involves ceding land to Russia. Europeans are worried that major concessions to Moscow could create security problems for the West in the future. Let's get more from DW political correspondent Simon Young. Welcome, Simon. Let's start with the timing of this virtual summit. Why now, and why is Germany hosting it?
Yeah, Phil, well, the official statement says that the purpose of this meeting is to discuss further ways to put pressure on Vladimir Putin to end the war in Ukraine. The timing obviously is ahead of that meeting that's set for Friday between Trump and Putin in Alaska. It's about the Europeans making it clear to Trump in particular what the sort of perspective is here, because there's a real fear that discussion could take place in Alaska about Ukraine, but without without Zelenskyy present, and without that European voice being understood. So the Europeans are concerned about that possible idea of territory swaps in Ukraine that Trump has hinted at. And Zelenskyy says that Putin might trick Trump. Europeans are concerned to prevent that. And they're really concerned here because this is about European core security interests as well, of course. As to the question of hosting, well, I think it might just be an operational detail which capital has the people available tomorrow to set this thing up. In fact, the EU says that this is a joint initiative between the UK, France and Germany together. But it's also worth noting, of course, Germany is the leading supplier of arms to Ukraine in Europe. So therefore it feels it is a leading voice here.
OK, so the Europeans want to try and ensure that President Trump doesn't get tricked by President Putin, and to try and ensure there will be no swapping of territories over Ukraine's head. Is there any evidence that NATO or European leaders can have the slightest influence on Donald Trump doing what Donald Trump wants to do?
Well, I would remind you that when Friedrich Merz visited Donald Trump in the White House back in June, Trump said that he was very interested to hear what Friedrich Merz had to say on the subject of Ukraine, and thought that the European point of view was very interesting. Now, it may just be words, but he said the same thing about a lot of the other Europeans as well. Trump has been tough with Zelenskyy, but he's continued to listen to the Europeans, I think not least because he wants them to pay for Europe's defence, as he says. And also, it's worth noting, this is going to be, I think, from the European point of view, a lot about the security arrangements on the ground, how to shore up any peace deal, any ceasefire that might be agreed potentially, and how to secure, as it were, that pathway to peace in the future on the ground in Ukraine.
Quick look at the sort of German domestic picture here. The German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, his government, under a lot of pressure at the moment. Does he need a win domestically?
Well, certainly Friedrich Merz does need a win. He's faced a lot of setbacks recently. He's been criticised for poor communication around the appointment of a new judge at the Constitutional Court, leading to a sort of mini rebellion within his own party. There's also been a lot of criticism over Merz's decision to reduce arms supplies to Israel in recent days. So any positive news relating to Ukraine would surely be good news for Friedrich Merz as well.
Thanks, Simon. DW political correspondent Simon Young.